It's Wednesday night, and you all know what that means. That means it's AEW Dynamite Fight for the Fallen. As you know, we're only 11 days away before we head to Wembley Stadium and then, of course, All Out. But also remind you, this particular show is now called Fight for the Fallen to help awareness after what happened at the island of Maui with the wildfires that took place. But first things first, we're going to review some past events from GCW from last month in July, which I did not see. This one are from two shows they did in Japan, The New Face of War and Planet Death. And of course, there's one with their counterparts, Freedom's, doing their show exactly around the same time they did their shows as well. And of course, we got some news updates to tell what's been going on in the world of pro wrestling. So, let's get ready for another episode of Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Welcome everybody to the Deleted Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, Gerard here. So, if you are new to the channel, welcome. If you like this channel, please subscribe to us. You'll be getting a lot of reviews from different promotions. But if you like this episode, please click like or leave a comment down below. So, let's get started. Our first show we're going to be reviewing is from GCW in Japan for the New Face of War. All their shows took place in Shikiba First Ring, which is a legendary venue that we've seen many times. However, this is where, of course, GCW have collaborated with many wrestlers from their counterparts from the promotion Freedoms. So let's get started with this show. This took place on the 18th of July. Our first one is a scramble match. We have Jamie Lloyd versus Kikutaro versus Dragon Libre versus Minoru Fujita versus Teriyaki versus Gringo Loco. Now, this is a very interesting matchup. The reason I say this is because half of these wrestlers are from two different promotions. Teriyaki, Gringo Loco, Jamie Lloyd, GCW, Kikutaro, Dragon Libre, Minoru Fujita, Freedom. So basically, it's not a tag team. It's every man for themselves, but they made it look more like a tag team. But I have to say it was a pretty good one that went down. But however, it was Gringo Loco that walked out as the winner when he applied the Gringo Bomb on Dragon Libre. So, pretty good match right from there. Now, our next match is a death match. We have Daisuke Masaoka taking on Shane Mercer, the Iron Demon. I thought this match was going to be a lot brutal, a lot of blood and all that, but none of it. I mean, it didn't felt like an actual death match. It felt more like a straight up match to me by watching this. But one thing that it was very interesting how this match ended was, of course, everybody knows Shane Mercer's is the moonsault battery, which is he does a moonsault where he carries his opponent. However, somehow Masaoka was able to counter it and put him in a roll-up once he got him down on the ground. That was a very impressive. And I thought that this match was going to go to Shane Mercer, but nope, it did not. It was countered. I don't think Mercer expected that from Masaoka, but he showed respect that he pulled it off beautifully. Now, our next match, we have six-man tag match. We have Mammoth Sasaki, Toru Sugiura, and Tomoya Hirata. Now, these are the top guys in Freedoms. And of course, Sasaki is in fact the founder of this promotion. They take on Los Macizos, Medio Extremo, and Ciclope, along with the Duke of Hardcore, John Wayne Murdoch. So you probably can guess there was going to be a lot of blood, a lot of attacks, and all that. It was pretty good. However, in this case, it was of course a Fire Thunder by Miedo Extremo on the Sugiura to pick up the win. Now, here's where things got interesting in the post match. Um, the Macizos received a surprise visit from Violento Jack, someone who are they familiarized back in their home country in Mexico. Violento Jack, who's a Mexican wrestler who's been living in Japan, mostly participating with Freedoms, went to say hi to him, but all of a sudden he turned his back on his brothers, saying that they're no longer his family, that his new family are the unit that he's in, Erie. However, they just left him laying there for dead, and all this other stuff. But however, Jamie Lloyd, who's been so close with Los Macizos, he did not like what he saw. He thought that they were family and all this, but one of the commentators told him, "Why won't you talk to Los Macizos to deal with this mess?" "You're right. I'll be right back." So that looks like it did happen, but that's on the next show. Next up, we have Soyorek and Charlie Evans taking on Masha Slamovich and Rina Yamashita. So you probably can guess this is the first time we've seen all women's death match. I mean, it probably would have been great. I loved it. It was pretty sweet. I mean, here's who we have: Rek and Charlie Evans. I mean, I've seen these two ladies kill it in the death match scene. Masha Slamovich, she was the GCW World Champion, and then of course we have Rina Yamashita, who's been declared as the Deathmatch Queen. But in the end, it was of course Rina Yamashita that pulled off the Splash Mountain onto who was it? Onto Evans to pick up the win. So I thought it was a pretty good one. Now our next match is a title match. This is for the GCW World Title. We have Shigehiro Iri versus Blake Christian. Now, you would have assumed that people would hate him being there, but no, the Japanese people that just cheer on for anybody. That's how they always are, unless they do something stupid. But it was a pretty good match. I mean, look, you have Blake Christian, who in fact has the speed in his advantage, but Shigehiro has the strength and power. But in the end, it was of course Blake Christian with the stomp onto Erie to pick up the win. Now our next match, our main event, is Masashi Takeda taking on Joey Janela. Another death match. You probably would have thought it was going to be full blown. I thought it was crazy. Now I kind of would have thought this match would have gone to Joey, but no, you got to remember, this is Japan. This is Takeda's home turf. So it kind of fit in that he was going to win this match when he pinned Joey Janela. But of course, at the end of the show, we get a little brawl between both sides of GCW talent and Freedom's talent. So we'll see how right now Planet Death is. So let's do that right now. Okay, more with GCW Planet Death. This is also in Japan at Shinkiba First Ring. This took place on the 19th of July of 2023. Now, it opened up with Shigehiro in a match against Shane Mercer. I have to say, this is a power for power type of match, if you know what I mean. But, nonetheless, Shane Mercer, who had to make up for his loss that he had the previous day, was able to apply the moonsault battery to pick up the win. I thought it was a pretty good match. I mean, I feel like he found his redemption after somehow Masaoka, who countered his move, but he was able to pull it off for this one. So good for him. Next up, we have 6-man tag match. We have a somewhat of Team Freedoms versus Team GCW match. On the Freedom side, we have Toru Sugiura, Mammoth Sasaki, and Tomoya Irada taking on Joey Janela, Gringo Loco, and Blake Christian. Now, this is the very first time seeing all three can get along in the ring, but back in here in the States, they don't. But, however, this is at stakes. This is GCW, if you know what I mean, how they're trying to represent. But in the end, it was the 450 splash by Blake Christian onto Sasaki to pick up the win. So that means GCW pulled off this one. Now our next match, we got a pair legends in the deathmatch scene. We have Azami Kodaka and Yuko Miyamuro from Bizarra, but they team up with Daisuke Mozaki. They take on the three ladies in the ring, Charlie Evans, Sawyer Wreck, and Rina Yamashita. I have to say this was a pretty good match. I mean, boys versus girls. I don't think this is like a GCW versus Freedoms, but it's a very interesting match. Now, for those who are saying women don't do death matches, wrong answer. We do have women in death matches, not only here in the States, but in Japan. If you guys never seen Prominence, check them out, or check out, of course, Rina Yamashita's amongst them, and of course we have, what's her name, Miyako Matsumoto, who's a pain in the ass, but nonetheless, we do have women here. But I have to say it was a pretty good match. You know, I like how the cooperation between Evans, Rek, and Yamashita work together. I think that's a pretty good combination with all three of them. But in the end, it was Yamashita with the Splash Mountain onto, who was it? They got the Splash Mountain? Oh yeah, Masaoka that picked up the win. So the women took the victory. Next up, we got Masashi Takeda taking on Masha Slamovich. Now, this is where I failed to mention what happened at the last show, where, of course, there was a brawl going on between GCW and Freedom. Well, Masha attacked Takeda at the end of the show. So basically, she was laying down a challenge to him. But, of course, Takeda's not going to back down from this crap, regardless if she's a woman. But, nonetheless, it was a brutal match. I mean, it was a death match, for Christ's sakes. But in the end, it was, of course, Takeda who picked up the win with the pinfall. So that's how it rolls right there. Next up, we got Revenge taking place. Now, if you guys remember clearly, Violento Jack turned his back on his brothers down in Mexico, Los Macizos. He now declared that they're no longer his family. He's declaring Erie as his RE as his family. But I did say this: the Jimmy Lloyd, who's been so close with Los Macizos in recent times, he asked them. They told him maybe you should do something with them. So of course, Jimmy Lloyd went to talk to him, and looks like they got the revenge match that they wanted. But you probably would have thought that this match would have fallen to Erie's hands, but no. The strength of the friendship between Jimmy and Los Macizos is endless. I mean, he got along great with those guys from the very beginning. But it was, of course, what was it? It was a frog splash by Ciclope onto who was it that got the spot on the guy named Sakuda, I think that's his name, that picked up the win. So basically, Los Macizos got the revenge against Violento Jack, and of course that. Now, however, John Wayne Murdoch showed up and attacked Violento Jack. Now, this is payback for when he thought. You see, after Violento Jack appeared in the last show, John Wayne Murdoch decided to leave them alone, like trying to let them have their moment, unaware that his Violento Jack's true attention was to turn on his brothers. So basically, I think John Wayne Murdoch felt deeply responsible that he didn't see this one coming. So he attacked Violento Jack, but however, he had an opponent he had to deal with, and that opponent is the one of the deathmatch wrestling's top talent and most favorable, Jun Kasai. So of course everybody loves Jun Kasai. I mean, if you ever seen the guy, the dude is insane. But you probably would thought this match was going to go on forever. But however, Violento Jack shows up to give return a favor to Jun Kasai from defending him from John Wayne Murdoch, costing him the match. But however, Jun Kasai was able to pick up the victory when he applied a pile driver on top of some light tubes. So basically, he got the win. So once again, we continue with the same story with the war between both Freedoms in GCW. But that's how it ends. But let's move on to the next show that only features just a Freedom show, but also it does feature certain wrestlers in GCW. So let's do that right now. Okay, Freedoms. Let me give you guys a lowdown. If you guys don't know who Freedoms are, this is Pro Wrestling Freedoms. This is one of Japan's deathmatch promotions. They've been around, but they do also non-deathmatch matches in their promotion as well. There have been many wrestlers that I've seen in Japan that actually appeared. Um, this particular show is called. This was a produced show by Jun Kasai, to be exact, called the Shinkiba Deathmatch Carnival. So that's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Now, our first match, we have Rekka versus Kikutaro versus Tatsuhito Takaiwa. Now, what is funny about this match is this. Takaiwa is no slouch. He's a veteran in the pro wrestling scene. However, Kikutaro and Rekka try to build an alliance in order to deal with Takaiwa, because Takaiwa, like I said, is no freaking slouch. He is a badass dude. But of course, their little alliance did not work regardless. It was, of course, um, he Takaiwa with the Death Valley driver on Rekka, then he pinned both men. 1, 2, 3, just like that. So basically, the alliance between Rekka and Kikutaro was useless. So better luck next time. I think it would take a whole army to take them down. Next up, we have members from RE, Q Mogami, and Dobu Nesano Fuki take on Dragon Libre and Gintaro. Now, I would have assumed this match would have fallen to Erie because they are like the heel group of in this promotion. But however, it was, of course, a code red by Dragon Libre with onto Fuki to pick up the win. However, as soon as the match was over, Dragon Libre decided to throw in a promotion. But here's where things got interesting. And I'm not joking, I'm not playing here, I'm not BSing. We had a surprise guest coming all the way from New Japan Pro Wrestling. If you guys can guess who that is none other than our current IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion, Hiromu Takahashi. Now, you probably ask yourselves, why is he there? Well, I can think of a few reasons why. I think he has his sights set on Dragon Libre. Now, I don't know exactly if this has something to do related to the All-Star Junior Festival in the U.S. here in Philly that will take place on the 19th. So, if that was the case, but I cannot recall if I ever mentioned him during the announcements. If you guys remember, every news update I try to announce who will be appearing in what promotion, what show they'll be in it, like a tournament or anything like that. But I can't remember. If I did, please let me know in the comments below. Now, our next match, we have Minoru Fujita and Kengo taking on the guys from a group called F-Swag, Yuya Suzumu and Jun Masaoka. I'm not sure if he's related to Takeda Masaoka, I think. But anyway, it was a good match. It was a straight-up match, nonetheless. But in the end, it was Kengo who pinned Masaoka for this one. Not too much of a hardcore excitement match, but I can tell you that much. Now, moving on. We have, of course, another match between the ladies and the guys. But this time, of course, I said this before. We do have Masha Slamovich teaming up with Charlie Evans and Sawyer Wreck. They take on Erie, consistent of Toshiyuki Sakuda, Takayuka Ueki, and of course Violento Jack. So this was going to be a pretty much of a deathmatch scene type match. You probably would have expected it in every possible way. But, however, the one thing that was crazy is, who was it? It was Sakuda who actually stapled the head of Charlie, and when he applied the crucifix bomb. So basically, she couldn't get out. Like, she looks like she was like extremely in pain. But however, luckily for her, Slamovich and Sawyer Wreck were right there to comfort her. So, but of course, the one thing that was great at the end of right as soon as it was over is the standing ovation that, of course, all these three ladies got from from the audience. I think many fans are appreciating that, yeah, women can kick ass in death matches, and I think that's something cool to hear. Now, our next match, we have another bit of Team GCW versus Freedoms. We have Gringo Loco, Blake Christian, and John Wayne Murdoch taking on, who was it again? Takahiro Katori, Matt Mizazaki, and Takashi Sasaki. Um, One thing that was funny is if you guys ever seen this guy named Kotaro, he always has like a stuffed bunny that he brings in with him to the ring. However, apparently they were trying to smash it. John Wayne Murdoch was being all lovey-dovey with it, like did not want to hand it over. Like, no, no. I'm like, when was the last time he's ever acted like this? That's the thing that kind of got me going. Like, he never acted like that ever. But anyway, the match was pretty sick. I did like the combination at the end of Gringo Loco and Blake Christian. Once again, Blake Christian applied the 450 splash on Katori and just won just like that. Now, our next match, we have another pair of, GCW versus Freedoms. We have Joey Janela, Shane Mercer, and Jimmy Lloyd taking on Yoshiko Ito, Masashi Takeda, and of course, the top deathmatch wrestler Jun Kasai. You thought this match was going to be insane. It was insane, if you guys know what I mean. But in the end, it was, of course, Joey Janela with a diving foot stomp when he put, who was it he put? When he put Ito on top of a barbed wire with on a board. He was right on top. The barbed wires were on top of Ito, but Joey Janela applied a diving foot stomp. Just like that, it was completely over. So that gives GCW a good win right there. And now the next match, we have Los Macizos teaming up with Rina Yamashita, taking on the top guys of Freedoms. Todo Sugiura, Daisuke Masaoka, and of course Tomoya Irada. So this was going to be a very tough battle between all three of them. But in the end, it was, of course, Sugiura who pinned Miedo Extremo, so giving Freedoms the match. So we will see more of members from Freedoms at another time. But right now, this is a pretty good show. I think their success in Japan is pretty good. If you're not into the deathmatch scene, I understand, but this is why. I failed to see these because if you guys probably asked me why didn't I see those shows, well, I'll explain that at the end. I think we're right now moving on to our final review, AEW Dynamite, Fight for the Fallen. Okay, AEW Dynamite, Fight for the Fallen. Now, it opened up with the AEW International title on the line. Now, this match was set upon a week ago by Wheeler Yuta to Orange Cassidy. Now, their history goes way back. If you guys know the history between those two, Orange Cassidy was the mentor of Wheeler Yuta until he decided to align himself with the Blackpool Combat Club. Wheeler Yuta always criticized Orange Cassidy, saying that he doesn't care about him or everything, but he's determined to surpass his teacher by taking away the international title, which is a title that Orange Cassidy has defended proudly and never lost. So Wheeler Yuta is a confident man to believe that he would walk out as the winner. However, the only X factor in this match for Orange Cassidy is the fact that he is not 100% healed from his hand, so he had no other choice but to do something about it. But of course, out of nowhere, Blackpool Combat Club were going to show up to ensure this match goes to Wheeler Yuta, but it did not do any favors for anybody until Orange Cassidy pinned Wheeler Yuta to pick up the win. However, as soon as this happened, of course, this was going to be the vocal point. The BCC were going to beat down Orange Cassidy. Best Friends showed up, who we haven't seen in the parking lot match that they lost to Blackpool Combat Club, showed up. And then here comes Lucha Brothers, also try to help. But unaware, here comes Eddie Kingston, who hasn't forgotten his feud towards Claudio Castagnoli. But Eddie Kingston came up a challenge that we did not expect. He said, all in. Him, the Best Friends, Orange Cassidy, and the Lucha Brothers, all 6 of them, versus Blackpool Combat Club and 3 partners of their choosing. But the setting is simple. Stadium Stampede. This is going to be huge. I mean, from my understanding, Wembley Stadium is a big venue. There's going to be a lot of things that are going to take place. So, but even Claudio's like thinking that he must that he must be out of his mind. Like, Claudio's always criticized Eddie, but he better be prepared for this. Now, Kenny Omega has decided to talk about a lot of things with JR regarding Don Callis and Konosuke Takeshita. Now, Kenny has often talked about how Don Callis has always been like an uncle to him, but he's always felt like Don Callis has been very controlling of him, making sure that he is well taken care of, like turning him into an athlete, winning awards and that sort of thing. But he never had any friends. Like, it's always been like that. But Kenny always cherished those memories that he was his uncle in a way. But of course, he talks about Takeshita as soon as that happened. But he did say that, you name me this, I'm not the one who called myself the god of pro wrestling. You did. So, like, as the god of pro wrestling, I can take away everything. So he's willing to do that to Takeshita. But as soon as that was said, here comes Don Callis, who criticizes Kenny. But it was nothing more than an ambush laid out by both, of course, members of the Bullet Club Gold, Juice and Jay White, and of course Takeshita. But unfortunately, Kenny ended up in a hospital down in Jacksonville. Even Hangman Page was, of course, there waiting for Kenny Omega. He gave his response to what happened, but he said that this thing that's going to happen in Wembley Stadium, him teaming up with Kenny and Ibushi, you can call it a dream team, that he never would have imagined that he would team up with these 2 guys. But we'll see what happens until then. Now, speaking of that despicable prick, Don Callis. Now, for a while we've been watching him, who's been trying to persuade Chris Jericho to join his family. So I've always talked about this ever since Jericho formed the Inner Circle, then the JAS. He has never joined any faction, but him creating them, that was something different and more fresher of any perspective we've seen. So basically, he turned down the offer, and of course, out of nowhere, here comes Takeshita attacking him. But when things were going great for him, here comes Will Ospreay and attacks Jericho. So, but of course, Sammy Guevara, who's always been loyal to Jericho, shows up. But it's later on, of course, Jericho said on an interview with Renee Paquette that, this thing between were set back all the way to 2021. Jericho wanted to face Will Ospreay, but he told him that he has no idea what he got himself into. So he said that he's going to make him bleed. So, and this time it's going to be in his home turf. Now, keep in mind, Will Ospreay did want to beat Kenny in his home turf in Canada. I wouldn't be surprised if Jericho beats Will Ospreay in his turf. So, we'll see about that. Now, as you know, in a couple of weeks ago, back then, Jack Perry defeated his former best friend, Hook, to win the FTW Championship. Now, he did have a bit of success defeating RVD, but he made the most shocking announcement. Even Taz himself was shocked to hear this. He said that next week, he's going to retire the FTW Championship. I'm sure Taz does not want that to happen, but I'm sure he will try to find a way to ensure that doesn't happen ever again. Now, our next match, we have Nick Wayne versus Darby Allin. But of course, out of nowhere, the freaking Gates of Agony, Bishop Khan and Tail Leona, representing the Mogul Embassy, were there. Then, of course, we saw Swerve and R.A. Fox observing. But there was one thing we did notice. Where was Prince Nana? Where was he? So we didn't notice that until later on. But, however, the match was being brutalized by the Gates of Agony. I'm sure that Swerve and AR Fox would do everything in their power to make sure they lay down on the ground both Nick and Darby. But however, I like the combination between Nick and Darby winning the match. Darby applied a coffin drop on Bishop Khan to pick up the win. But however, Darby knew that that the numbers game was too much. But during the post match, this is what really interesting. Sting shows up, telling R.A. Fox that you better have eyes in the back of your head because we're getting close to the coffin match. And he told him that then he had Prince Nana right there. Nana, who has been scared, pardon my language, shitless being around Sting because apparently Joker Sting is back. And of course, he tells him, it's showtime. It's showtime. And of course, he scares the hell out of him. But Jesus, I thought it was funny. It's like, na 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 na, hey hey hey, goodbye. I thought it was hilarious. But if you guys ask me, what was the Mogul Embassy doing? Simple. They realized that Nana was in trouble, so they hightailed out. Forget about the beatdown and try to save Nana. So I thought that was classic. It was so intense. I loved it. So I think many fans are happy that Joker Sting is back. Now, once again, the shenanigans with Adam Cole and MJF never cease to amaze me. MJF was observing kangaroos and thinking this is the way to beat Aussie Open. Of course, Adam Cole's like, you have some pretty good ideas, but this is for the dumbest. But don't forget, they did a little promo later talking about their upcoming matches. I mean, don't forget, at the pre-show, both MJF and Adam Cole will face Aussie Open for the ROH Tag Team titles. And of course, don't forget the main event. But of course, Aussie Open showed up to beat them down. But they better save that time for another later date. So that's the thing I would see. Now, we do see a Texas Chainsaw Deathmatch. Oh man, that was so hilarious. But however, I think that it was just way too much. I mean, there was too many people involved. I mean, Jeff Jarrett, their side corners. I'm sorry, I felt like that was just too much. But of course, we saw Leatherface showed up and chase Karen Jarrett. But however, Sangnam Singh shows up and chokeslam Jeff Jarrett, and of course, Jeff Jarrett won the match, just like that. Now, our next match, this is one of the qualifying matches involving the four-way match for the AEW Women's World Title, Britt Baker versus the Bunny. Now, Bunny, we haven't seen her for quite some time due to injury. I can say I'm happy to see her, but I would like to see her succeed even more, if you know what I mean. But of course, she was going to have her BFF, Penelope Ford, to be there. Of course, she was going to get involved and try to cost the match, but it didn't do any favor for her because, of course, Britt Baker applied a stomp just like that. Now, we were supposed to have a match with the Acclaim and two enhancements. That did not happen because apparently the lights turned off, and look who showed up. The House of Black showed up and attacked the Acclaim. Max Caster was busted open. So, but they decided to take advantage of not their weak spot, but the more strength. Recently we have been seeing the Acclaim carrying Billy Gunn's boots. And now they're trying to play mind games with them. So I'm sure the Acclaim will do whatever it takes to bring those boots back. So we'll see what happens until then. Now, our main event, this was a match that was set a week ago by the Guns, aka the Ass Boys. You see, the Ass Boys have often say they are the best brother tag team in the world. They're saying the Hardy Boys, they're a thing in the past. The Bucks, they had their time. Top Flight, that sort of thing. So they want to prove that they are, in fact, the true brother tag team. So you probably would have thought in the same aspect. But best part is, the Bucks actually played some old tricks of theirs by attacking the Guns right before the start of the show. Now, I think there was something that was true about why they did it. Don't forget, these guys are members of the Bullet Club Gold with Jay White and Juice Robinson. I'm sure that the Bucks are not happy for what happened to their best friend Kenny. So, of course, Kevin Kelly and Taz agreed upon each other, realizing this is payback for what happened to Kenny. So I'm sure that's what was all why they did it. But in the end, of course, as you know, the Guns have used ways to cheat. The Bucks are no strangers to that. So they played a dirty trick on them, telling this how it's done, boys. But out of nowhere, here comes, of course, Jay White and Juice Robinson to take out Matt Jackson to try to break his arm. But out of nowhere, here comes FTR. So this is a very interesting thing. FTR saved the Bucks, but not because they want to, because they want them to be in the best shape of their lives, because the rubber match is what's important. So we'll see what happens in Wembley Stadium, but we're also going to see what's going to happen in Rampage and Collision this weekend. So I think that's pretty much it right now. So let's move on with some news updates. Okay, welcome to our news updates. So this is what we do have. For our GCW updates, apparently there has been some changes for the upcoming show of Homecoming, which is one of their 2-day shows that take place in Atlantic City at the Showboat. It was revealed that Freedom's wrestler, Tomoya Irada, is unable to compete due to injury. However, it was later revealed that both nights he will be replaced by Toru Sugiura. On night 1, Sugiura will put his Freedom's title on the line against John Wayne Murdoch. On night 2, he teams up with Sasaki to take on the East-West Express for the GCW World Tag Team titles. But however, Tomoya Irada, it wasn't the only one who got injured. So did Hijo del Vikingo. So there were some changes from his involvement on his match too. I just cannot recall what it was, but I'm sure that. Now, more on the GCW updates here. As you know, next month GCW will be doing a 2-day show in Germany. They announced that Jordan Oliver will be participating in both shows, so that's great news to hear. Now, as you may have remember, I mentioned Wrestling Revolver has set up the Revolver Women's Grand Prix that will take place in October on the 8th. They announced entry number 6. That will be none other than Trish Adora. However, they even made a surprising announcement. This is a non-tournament announcement, participation. They will be in the show, but not participating in the tournament. We have the return of the Killer Death Machines, featured Jessica and Nevaeh. It's been a while since those two teamed up, so that's going to be great. Now, update for the New Japan Royal Quest 3. This take place later on in October on the 14th. It was announced that our current IWGP World Heavyweight Champion Sonata will be there too. So that's great news to hear. Now, more information has arisen for the All-Star Junior Festival USA that will take place in Philly on the 19th of this month. Leo Rush has been announced that he is the 37th entry. However, because Leo Rush's name was announced, it's been told now that he will be involved in a 5-way match that will feature him, Fugas, Soberano Jr., Dragon Kid, and Casey Navarro. So there's going to be a 5-way match. Interesting developments from Pro Wrestling Noah. Amakusa was announced that he suffered a torn interior cruciate ligament on his left knee that took place recently at Korakuen Hall during the N1 victory. So he'll be out of action. Now, they still haven't determined how long he will be out. So hopefully they'll give us some updates on that. Oh yeah, this is a very interesting one. You remember Sunny from in the Attitude Eras in WWE, her real name Tammy Sytch. Hopefully I pronounced it right. You remember that she was arrested for a DUI manslaughter charge. Well, apparently it was revealed that she pleads no contest for this, but however, she could face up to 25 years in prison. So even if she's found guilty, she'll be spending the next 25 years. I mean, look, we have heard and seen her. She's been in a lot of trouble been arrested many a times, and all this and that. She was recently in jail or in prison for a year, and then was released. Then this crap is happening. So I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of things. So we'll see what happens until then. Now, finally, if you guys remember, not too long ago, after Double or Nothing, um, Toni Storm said some things about Giulia, and Giulia said the same thing. But on a recent interview by Toni Storm towards Giulia, this is what she had to say. Let me pull it up real quick for all of you. Oh, here it is. This is what Toni Storm had to say. Well, I heard Giulia's talking shit. She thinks she's the shit. Not threatened by her at all, but I make an example out of her big time because all the shit she's been talking, so I like to put her in her place. So, looks like right now, Giulia. Now, keep in mind, Giulia is no stranger in taking on bigger challenges, especially big time names. Like I said this before on a certain time, I look at Toni Storm in her time with Stardom that she's like a Stardom royalty, and I think that kind of puts Giulia like saying, that I'll put her away. She's always the type of person who wants to challenge those who have royalty. Like she feels like I'm going to surpass every last one of them, and Toni Storm is no exception. But Toni Storm, well, let's see if she can put her in place. But the obvious thing is, when will this happen? I mean, I'm sure right now Giulia is currently busy because she will be here in the States this weekend, I believe. Yeah, for Multiverse United. But we'll see what happens until then. So if there's anything coming up from that, I'll let you guys know. So let's just call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this episode. Before I proceed anything else, I want to explain why did I review GCW's events from Japan from last month in July. Same thing with Freedoms. Truth to be told, on this particular timing, I was working at Comic-Con, so I was unable to watch these shows. So I, instead of trying to put them on a special episode, even though we're like 1 month away, I decided to do that. So I decided to do all three of them to see if I can get those out of the way and focus on the remaining shows with GCW. The ones that I haven't seen yet is My Name Is, No Signal in the Hills, and the recent show they did in Tijuana, Mexico, Explosivos, something like that. But I'll get those out of the way as soon as possible because I know we got some plenty shows I definitely got to put out of the way. But coming up for our next episode, Gleet had the recent show this past weekend, but they won't up. They have will be uploading it soon on YouTube. I can't wait to see it. Also, we have MLW, Ring of Honor, and Impact Wrestling. So we will be doing all of that too. So I think that's pretty much it. What we're gonna do for our next episode. So I will see you guys in the next DWZ time, same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So goodbye. Mwah. And have a nice day. Bang.